Hi. Don't worry, it's still me. I'm just using the small bit model because we're playing Kobolds today, and it made more sense when I started recording. Anyway, this is the second half of the Kobildzan playthrough for the EU4 Fantasy Total Conversion mod, Anbennar. I'd recommend watching the first half if you haven't already. It is 50 minutes long though, so I'll still give you a quick recap. In the first half, we set about uniting the Canorian Kobolds, first by annexing the blue scales as the Ren scales, then by annexing the Cliff Gnomes and the green scales in the north. Then down here there was a country called Riveria, which I believe does colonialism if you don't decide to step in and annex them, so we did. This led the humans to form a coalition against us and fight the first anti-kobold war, which they of course lost, giving us these territories up here. Then, once the truce was up, we went ahead and invaded Gawed to expand the buffer zone over here. Meanwhile, we decided to go look for more dragons, since seemingly none exist in Canor at this point, and we did end up finding one over here in North Elentir, the former home of the elves. Kobildzan here is a dragon worshipping cult kind of country, and there is a dragon. It is in here though, which is kind of a problem, because if we're not quick, these guys might try to kill that dragon, and I don't know if that'll be an issue for us, but hopefully not. After forming Kobildzan, we also became a technocratic republic, which gave us access to artificery. For context, most countries don't get artificery until they have embraced manufactories, so getting it very much ahead of time is quite helpful for us. We did, of course, also spawn colonialism. As expected, a coalition is going to continue expanding because, yeah, we've been doing a lot of things they don't like. Fortunately, it doesn't involve the entire empire of Anbennar, but I think we're going to have to maybe take a step back for a little bit. For the tier 4 reform, I think it would make the most sense to go with the loyalty equilibrium for all the estates, plus the diplomat is nice. We do have a lot of extra points, so I might go ahead and start developing some things. We're not going into a big war anytime soon, so I don't think we need this as much as we could use maybe the yearly inflation reduction. Ooh, military reform. Well, the military is pretty strong either way. The navy tradition would just be outright wasted on us, so let's go with both. I don't really know what triggered this event. Some part of it must be because we have a trap on this province. There's a lot of interesting lore here. So TLDR, when kobolds hatch, they are collectively raised by a particular large family, and those families might specialize in some kind of industry or practice, or they can group together into multiple families that form like a larger cohesive unit that also practice that particular thing. This event pretty much just means, hey, by the way, over here, a large collection of families are dedicated to just being garrisons. All of that is to say, we just get defensiveness in this province. That's kind of cool, I guess. I also decided to build up a larger fleet so we can sail all of these troops across the, I was going to say Atlantic, but that's not what this is. Welos Lament Ocean. Sure. Here we go, more artifice done. Nice. We'll do a little more research. Those were the exo-arms, so if we ever go to war, we might as well slap these on. Okay, we've made our way over to Malaknar. Our main objective is to liberate all the provinces that should belong to Kobildzan. Oh yeah, so, by the way, when you're playing as some countries, typically in Canor, but not necessarily, you will have a couple of adventurer countries that will spawn in random places. Well, not really random. They do have preset places usually, but sometimes they do pop up and you have the option to play as them. I haven't played as one myself, but apparently the Vanbury Guild is very interesting because they are absolutely disgusting with their artificery. So Gomoport, Mestikardu, and the guys that we're about to spawn over here are the 3 adventurer artificery companies that sort of spawn over here. Eventually, I'm not sure if it's by force or just through merging, but these 3 eventually form the Triarchy, which is a gnome, goblin, and kobold technocratic republic that exists over here in North Elentir. You can play as them if you want to. I don't think they have a mission tree yet, but at least conceptually pretty interesting. We got this event because of our explorers, and in this case, I'm not really sure what we're looking at here. As far as I was aware, the floating city that's mentioned in this event is currently basically Atlantis status, completely underwater. As far as I know, that was what actually caused the big circle here, the city falling and the following magical disaster that happened because of that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can actually find the remnants of the floating city, unless this is just a different floating city. There's more than one. Even harpies can make floating cities, so I guess we'll try to find one of them. I think I'm starting to understand. I think that previous event on this one province was part of a larger event chain, because we have another one that also gives us increased defensiveness. This time we learned about some ancient gnomish tunnels on the island. Judging based on the context, this seems to be really old, similar period of time in Anbennar to like the Bronze Age, mostly because they mention something called the invasion of the Deep Devils, which I can only assume is an analog for the invasion of the Sea Peoples during the Bronze Age collapse. The main thing is that they used to make traps on there, so maybe we're actually not all that different from one another. So we gained tolerance of gnomes and some more defensiveness. The war did take a little bit longer than I was hoping, but mostly because, you know, my subjects have been throwing the entire war. But anyway, I'll be taking war reps, full money, and you will be returning all of your cores. Thank you. Of course, this will make Kobildzan very happy because we've returned a bunch of cores to them. And so we can finally meet with Varlengelt. Apparently, Varlengelt is quite a young dragon who has himself never actually met another dragon and doesn't know what kobolds are. So Varlengelt, while being a god to the kobolds, doesn't really know anything of divinity himself. I think this event is actually worth pausing the video and reading yourself, but still, I'll give you a TLDR. So interestingly enough, Varlengelt takes the form of an elf while he is ruling over the Ruinborn, which themselves are basically elves. And Varlengelt says, if you manage to get the Resentor, which are these guys over here, if you manage to get these guys to basically conquer everything here, then maybe I will allow you to become the speaker for me. Not that I know what the speaker even is, but let's pretend it's something important. Then the president is shooed out of the room, and interestingly, Varlengelt is terrified of the kobolds, although he didn't show it during the meeting. Likely because the kobolds are starting to develop artificery that is beyond Varlengelt's capabilities. Even though he's a dragon, he's not like a literal god, can't do insane, you know, create or destroy entire worlds type of stuff. So there is a limit to Varlengelt's power, and he's afraid that the kobolds are going to surpass him at some point. In practice, this means we get a claim on the Resenta region, that being this one up here, and very large tolerance increase of Ruinborn. For a third idea group, I'm liking the idea of either taking plutocratic or offensive ideas. Because of our unique playstyle, I don't think we actually need to pick up anything like offensive quality, but plutocratic ideas would give us reduced national unrest, more goods produced, element cost reduction, the manpower recovery speed, actually quite helpful. It'll allow us to build more traps and stuff. So would quantity ideas, but I don't think we need that much manpower. Plus, it does have a better combo with our other ideas. Well, it was fun trading with these gnomes. If I remember correctly, they were kind of nice to us back when nobody else really respected us, but unfortunately, I have a mission to complete, and something tells me they're not going to convert willingly. Did manage to crush one army in the north, which is great, but that's not as great. Let me see if I can quickly get this guy out. Although, these aren't the artificers, but we do have some artificery on. We can easily hold on long enough for a retreat. For the fifth reform, it's kind of a toss-up between whether I want to purely stack defensiveness for the meme. Honestly, we don't need it. It's just funny at this point. Or going with more artificery, adding 20% more special unit force limit, which artificers count for. Actually, yeah, I will go with that. Batesk will leave. Perfect. I guess go ahead and break your alliance with Laurent. Alright, we're going in, this time with the artificers. They should be much stronger. Plus, we have some backup now. Now would probably be a good time to steal some maps. There we go, now we can see them completely. Oh, perfect, they locked in too. Kind of weird, actually. This province is Ancient Forest. I don't know why. I guess there are a few of them here, aren't there? Well, there goes the president. Tragic. He did do pretty well, although, I mean, I guess being cruel wasn't that great, but martial educator and strict, pretty good to have for, you know, 100 years. The Republican tradition doesn't really matter all that much, and this would be the best candidate. So the main reason why I went after Laurent was, well, first of all, I wanted to soften them up for the next war, because there will be another one, but I also wanted to break some other alliances to make that war even easier. So as long as the truce is shorter than 10 years, which I think it is now, then there shouldn't be any problems. And then we just take what we came here for. Now, for some reason, I was actually expecting that Kobildzan would become our subject. You know, if they survived and still held that city, it felt like it would make a lot of sense. So it appears we will have to invade them, but before we do that, our truce with Gawed is up, and we don't really have any aggressive expansion, so looks like it's a new age, and yeah, what do you know, we do have a couple of these things completed, don't we? Let's start the Golden Era then. Another Conquistador event, although this time, unfortunately, I slapped down the Conquistador here, thinking I wouldn't find much, but I did want to, like, discover the tiles. I'm probably not going to be the one who's able to colonize that. Still pretty cool, though. We get 25 prestige. First I'll spend that on getting a subject to like me, I guess. And it produces Dame's tier. I wish that were me. Oh, well, that's unexpected. Okay. See, I wasn't really able to declare war on this guy because our relations are too high, mostly because I returned the provinces. And also the tribute to a dragon thing, which kind of makes me feel like still it was supposed to be free. Doesn't really matter. The main thing is, it seems like my colony over here has other plans, and they do make at least a decent amount of income. Maybe I'll subsidize them as well. Oh, free stability, that's nice. Worth checking to see exactly what they want. In fact, actually, I should specify what I want them to take, which is all of this. Oh, there it goes. Let's sell some titles, take some of that crown land back, and I think I'll use my additional admin to develop myself back up to better crown land. Okay, not too bad from my subject. Actually, that could be a good thing because they might want my subject's provinces. Although they don't want them that badly. -5? That's it? Gonna be tough for me to be able to declare war on that guy, but it looks like most of the provinces from them we don't even need anymore. I'm sure the Istralorian Crusaders are probably going to take this stuff. Malakthar might take this stuff, and then we just go to war with them again. Not too big of a deal. Oh, I think they found the floating city. So I gotta assume at this point that there are probably multiple floating cities that crashed down to the earth, but the only one that like actually destroyed everything was this one, I guess. It's hard to imagine that it would have crashed here and then just kind of skipped across the water all the way down to here. Possible though, maybe, like if you skip a stone across a lake. Really should be thanking Easternar for this. It made my job a whole lot easier since I don't have to spend a stability to grab that land now. Finally, we've managed to convert that one gnomish city, allowing us to complete the Compendium of Dragons. The mission description describes a foreword to this compendium, which is written as a letter to Tyakan. If you remember in the last video, Tyakan was a, I think, somewhat mythical being, not sure if he actually existed. He was mentioned in this mission as a somewhat weirdly kobold-looking gnome that was leading the gnomish hierarchy, or specifically Nimsgod. So the theory is that Tyakan is either like a kobold that knows really high-level illusion magic, or is possibly a dragon himself. So the mission description kind of mentions it as an open letter specifically to Tyakan, because the book itself also kind of revolves around Tyakan in some part, because Tyakan is like a really important part of kobold culture at this point, so they are pretty relevant to both the compendium and generally learning about dragons. This gives us the Draconic Techno-Priests Tier 4 reform, which sounds absolutely insane, and we get another event. Upon changing our government reform, we gain 10 maximum absolutism, the shamans gain influence, and 10 static artificer capacity. We also get this event which talks about the Techno-Priests themselves, which faction should take charge in governance from now on. Basically, we get to choose, and I would say probably the Brillites. Now, if I remember correctly, you don't really want one faction to necessarily outshadow the other ones, but by the end of the game, I think Mechanists will have a lot more influence than they do now, just because of the types of things they give us, and the fact that we'll eventually get more army professionalism. And I'm also concerned about whether or not this has some kind of influence on a later event. See, for example, it says like the Brillites promise to bring kobolds towards Draconic Ascension, which sounds pretty nice. So might as well go with those guys. There's a lot to unpack in this event. First of all, it seems like the compendium may or may not be a load of garbage. According to the event, Zerzamek, some kobold, I guess, inventor, probably, researcher maybe, thinks the compendium is a bunch of lies, and so decides to take the idea of Draconic Ascension onto themselves. The biggest thing, really, is about the co-conspirator, the gnome, because seemingly this gnome's arm has been previously amputated and now replaced with a rather kobold-looking arm, so we can see that some form of biomodification's already taking place. So now we have the cult of Zerzamek, and as they gain followers, our people leave for Haraf, wherever Haraf might be. Over here. Oh, surely they're referring to the region, which of course makes sense because it is Zerzamexia. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, actually. For as long as the Harafic Artificer cities still stand, our people will join their ranks. Okay, so I'm assuming we've lost 1 manpower and 2 of it probably ends up over here. Yeah, literally this province, actually. I see, so we will actually need to deal with these guys over here. We will need to fight them. Next, we take a step into the Draconic ourselves. Reading this event, it seems a Dragon Priest has already achieved a form of Ascension, having replaced her arms and given herself wings, also potentially giving herself just a larger body in general. And now, the objective is to make it scalable, pun intended. So we get Draconic Ascension for the Artificers. It says it's always upgrading and always changing. As the evolution from Kobold to Dragon progresses, it will continue to grow in bonuses and costs and requirements, and it cannot be revoked. We get Glide Wing Membranes, giving us 10% siege ability and 10% movement speed. Presumably, this would actually be a consequence of a choice we made in the previous video, where we had dreams either of flight or or something else, honestly, I kind of forget. We did pick the flight one because I thought it would be cool. It does give us more movement speed, which is kind of neat. Plus the siege ability is nice. Although, it makes you wonder how it's even possible to use all that artifice upkeep. We only have 9 left and it costs 10, so we'll see what happens. Oh, we got another 10. Okay, that makes sense. We're completely done with these Stradar, so we will simply fully annex them. Although I think in this case, I will actually have to core these myself because they are part of a different colonial region. In fact, some of these provinces should have never even gone to my subject here, but that's okay. We do also get to pick another government reform. Supremacy of the Diet should be fine because it gives us more republican tradition. Also, absolutism is irrelevant for now. Now, to deal with Malaknar for the second time, because we do need a couple of their provinces as well. Here's another Conquistador event. Realm of the Hidden Dragon. Sounds pretty relevant. Pretty important lore, actually. Before the Precursor Empire, there was the Age of the Rule of Dragons, where the elves were actually slaves, and then overthrew the dragons, killing most of them, except for apparently one of them. One of the dragons had the loyalty of their slaves, and allegedly, those ancient warriors that helped protect their master came back during the Day of Ashen Skies, which, if you're wondering, is the thing that caused all of this, to rescue those deemed pure of heart and take them into the master's hidden realm. Knowing Anbennar, this could very well be true, so who knows, let's go looking for it. There are a couple of events actually that we're going through. So first we set up a base on the highest point we could, then we got this event, and now we found a surge of magic and a very obviously precursor spear. Question is, what do we want to do with it? We're not gonna sell it, that's stupid. Research it or use it as a grounding rod. Go with research. Okay, so what is this? Plane binding? We're gonna lay a trap for an interdimensional dragon. Okay, sure, why not? Here we go, we have another colony having finished here now that I cored everything. Go ahead and call that, I don't really care to be honest. Crown colony sounds fine, we can use it to extract even more gold. And I think I'm going to take all this stuff. It should go straight to my subject, even though they won't really have a connection. But in theory, they don't actually need to core it, they just need to own it. And since this is the capital of our subject, actually, we should be able to instantly upgrade that, which is something we do have to do. But anyway, we will go ahead and finish this off. Should all go to the correct subject. The borders are kind of disgusting. Maybe it'll fix itself. We'll see. But nonetheless, we do have 1,000 ducats and all of the required provinces. Although, in truth, I kind of thought that we had to, like, colonize all that, and I guess we don't. Anyway, it's funny that the mission description itself actually mentions the fact that we did this through military conquest rather than diplomacy. Because I had the exact same thoughts earlier, but apparently this was the intended path behind it. So one of the kobolds is talking to the Resenter priest and states frankly, well, Varlengeld gave us a challenge. We proved our might in battle, yet still respect and care for his people. So surely he'll work with us now, right? It's an interesting way to interpret the challenge that Varlengeld gave to us, but I guess so. So we lose 1,000 crowns, we discover and gain a permaclaim on all of the relic-producing provinces in the Aordand subcontinent, that being this entire region over here, and we get another event. Varlengeld looks down at Marku Fangclaw, his face a mix of bemusement and concern. You returned. You let us, he replies. His workers pour out from the hallways, prostrating themselves to Varlengeld before preparing to shower him with gifts. We did this for you. Immediately, the construction of the Green Dragon's Horde begins. The first kobolds arrived with artificed fabricators, and so they quickly construct bookshelves and scaffolds. The rest arrive to fill these treasure troves with gold, jewels, heirlooms, and furs. The wealth of the Dragon Coast and the Inn are both presented to the dragon, who simply dismounts from his throne to inspect his new hoard. He lays a finger on the seal depicting his father and raises it to eye level. Then he glances to the kobolds, comparing their scales in the light. I allowed you to return because I knew you could accomplish this feat, he lies. Because you have treated my people well, and upheld them as your brethren, because you maintain my temples and build them anew. Because you are my kin, and I should treat you rightly. Varlengeld's smile grows only an inch as his word meets their mark. The kobolds in the room grow silent, deathly so, locked in place and stature, as they hear a dragon call them kin. He continues on as he walks towards the president, leaning down to lay a hand on his shoulder. You will be my speaker, Marku Fangclaw, my gospod. I entrust you to conquer the Inn in my name and show the people the light of the dragons. Marku Fangclaw rises, almost causing Varlengeld to flinch. I will be your godspot, he repeats, and you will be our dragon. I decided to read that one out loud because this is where a lot of the cool stuff starts to happen. So, 2 empires, forged as kin. We release the Dragon Dominion as an independent state, and we make it a twin empire, a sort of personal union, but not with one really being a junior or a senior. We change the development of the monument Grand Temple of Zvemel by 1, and we remove the aspect upgraded red came with the Horde builder. Instead, we get upgraded green Varlingalt of Eilantir, which gives us heavy ship combat ability and yearly Republican tradition. And like an idiot, I tried to upgrade this to see if I could take advantage of it being upgraded by 1 level, but if you do that, then it actually doesn't upgrade it by 1 level. So I wasted a whole lot of money and had to reload. Let's go. Anyway, let's release the Dragon Dominion. That's actually not too bad. It does hand back all the stuff that one of our colonies took, that they really shouldn't have had to begin with. And what do you get actually? Dragon Dominion traditions, discipline, siege ability, construction cost, yearly army professionalism, missionaries and missionary strength, 50% innovativeness gain, land force limit, caravan power. Okay, how about we go and sell some more titles, take some more land back. To answer to an empire, they do actually get a colonist and reduced province war score cost. They also get 20% land fire damage, which is crazy, although they don't have as much force limit and they really don't get as much money. In fact, I should give you a little bit of subsidies and probably pay off your debt. As a conclusion to looking for that hidden dragon, we found him. Not just the dragon, but an entire, well, seemingly an entire village, but it is now empty. Although it seems like people had been recently living in those houses, so the explorers went to go and loot the place, of course. Upon reaching the palace, the dragon was rather upset because it seems that out of curiosity, or rather to answer our curiosity, the dragon allowed us to bind to their dimension. But seeing as we immediately started looting the place, they were not too pleased and decided to wipe out most of the adventurers. Very cool. Some of them did make their way out, so we got 5 prestige and 400 crowns. We're now done with plutocratic ideas, which gives us our 10% artillery combat ability and 10% land fire damage, as well as minus 50% recruitment time, the other plutocratic modifiers, and 20% manpower recovery speed. As for the policies, we can grab more manpower and production. Went ahead and reformed the army into 3 groups, so now we have around 100,000 troops on the mainland area, mostly because I wanted to go to war with Laurent, and I think I mentioned that I would go to war as soon as the truce ended, but that didn't happen. So we're gonna do that now. Not one of my finest battles, I'll say that, but surely one that's winnable. Crimson Deluge. Fun. Oh wow, I actually get that as well. That's neat. All nations with more than 5 provinces in the Hellenic frontier, Vorlorn Vale, etc., etc., etc. Yet deluge-specific events. Sounds great. I kind of want the positive stability, so I think I'm just gonna bump it up once anyway. Although, because I have so much money, I might just wait until I have somebody who'll make it cheaper. Whew, there we go. This war was starting to drag on for a while. Pun intended, of course. Okay, I'll admit it was a significantly harder war than I thought it would be going into this. Yeah, that's a lot of troops lost, but anyway, we do get all this territory over here. A slight coalition, probably not a big deal. Especially if I just wait like 2 months. Now, normally I wouldn't take a Miltech 4 years ahead of time, but look at the cost, it's pretty much a regular Miltech. Plus I get the 4 innovativeness, and it's a tactics tech, and I'm about to get a really large coalition, so maybe it's not such a bad idea. Funny story about this mission, actually. Turns out I did not need to take this province. I just needed to have a spy network on whoever did own it. So that's kind of funny. Since the mission wanted us to build a bunch of workshops on wool provinces, it makes sense that the description mentions using water mills to make it easier to spin wool into cleaner, pliable forms. That's mostly what the mission talks about. This means that some of our wool provinces get turned into cloth provinces and start producing more. And since we're using fungi as dyes, that also gives us a bit of a boost in some of the cavern provinces. Also went ahead and built up a whole bunch of heavies for this next mission. The kobold krakeneers have learned to lay traps for sea monsters, I guess. This gives them a bunch of useful resources, kind of a similar way to the way whales were used in real life. They get ivory, a lot of food, and a bunch of oil. This gives us 3 grand shipyards, as well as 20% goods produced on 4 different provinces, and one of them starts to produce ivory. Seems I do have to grab this stuff for a mission. Figured I'd ask for a little more than I needed. Not too expensive, not that many people actually care. For our tier 7 reform, it's really hard to pick between either going with communal caves or the apparatus system. This one would give us minus 15% state's governing cost, which is actually really good. But on the other hand, I could get +1 development from building manufactories, which would be good, you know, before we start building manufactories. And we can balance out the mechanists a little bit by giving them more power. So it's probably better to take this now and then maybe this later, but I will go with this for now. I don't know if I'll be able to get what I actually want out of this. Those precursor relics aren't going to hand themselves over to me. So I didn't get what I wanted. Instead, I declared war on this guy, and now we have the printing press. I was pretty sure that I would get it, but oh well, it is what it is. We'll go with a peace deal that looks like this. It's going to take a pretty long time for my subject to core all this, but it shouldn't be too big of an issue. After finishing those state houses, we finished this mission off. As the kobolds expand their operations in the caverns, they've been having more and more cave-ins. As the fungi they farm also tends to break down the rock, but the kobolds don't seem to care. To them, every tremor, every earthquake, and every cave-in is just another sign that Malioth is going to wake up soon. So there isn't much to be concerned about, of course. So the entire Dragon Heights gets minus 90% development cost, and you might think, wow, that's a lot. But I mean, the caverns themselves add 80%, so it basically turns them into, well, better farmland, I guess. On top of that, though, a couple places will change their goods and receive additional local goods produced modifiers, as well as the occasional local manpower modifier. Let's not forget about the Dragon Dominion. We do need to continue expanding it. We will have to eventually come back for the rest of this, but for now I'll just take this stuff up here. Before we can really get started on taking this area down here, which we will have to at some point, we should invade these guys just so I can grab like this province and get a better coastline. Maybe make a colonial nation. Ooh, small countries revolted. They don't stand the greatest chance against Gawad though. We could help them. It's not me declaring war, so there shouldn't be any coalition getting involved, and in fact, it should force them to leave the coalition, which would be great. Besides, a weak Gawad is good for me. Cool that we can get the fog of war lifted, although I don't think it matters that much. We'll just grab this stuff to hold on to while we core it. Don't want to take too much because it will transfer to a subject and it'll take them a while to core it. I'm sure my subject should be able to handle this war for me. Okay, what? Revenge on Eaglecrest? I didn't really take any cities, so I don't know what this is about. Oh, right, this city. These guys were pretty well known for wearing kobold skin armor. So when we took the city and started putting the traps up, we also memorialized the names of those who were killed by these people. The locals didn't really like that, even though I did improve the city 12 times, but I mean, be that way, I guess. Might create a little bit of a coalition, but it's a shame because if I wanted to, I could throw on some free admin efficiency from an invention, but because I'm at war with Gawad, it's not like I can hand that territory over myself, so I just have to give it to my dominion. Should still be fine though, this is everything we need. Now would be a good time to pick up that institution. We can grab all these techs. Now, having converted this area up in the north, we get some lore about the true scope of where kobolds used to be. Well, at least part of it. Not long after the Dragon Wake, there actually were kobolds that used to live up here, as they did in much of this region. And we get another glimpse into the, well, frankly, some of the uncaring aspects of the kobolds when it comes to the humans that are living here. A young kobold expresses concern about the local moormen, to which an older kobold responds more like lessmen. So a sizable number of kobolds move into the region. We get some more permaclaims on some other areas, including some stuff I believe I've already taken up here. And now that that war is finally over, with the small country folk gaining their independence, well, we get a couple of provinces. That's nice of them. Although I don't like that this one is disconnected. And in fact, I don't remember saying I actually wanted that one. I would have preferred this one, because, you know, it's the Entrepot and the estuary, but maybe that was too expensive. Anyway, how bad is that AE? Honestly, terrible. That is really bad, actually. For those provinces, that's a lot. Well, it is what it is, and it isn't too bad for another reason. Laurent is in a personal union with Wisdom, who is, of course, in the Empire, and also allied to a bunch of people. So, my plan for the time being, actually, is to try and improve my relations with Laurent to see if I can support their independence, and then once the aggressive expansion goes down, then I can invade them again. We do still need some more relics, so we'll have to go and invade Arakaprun now. For this mission, we're going to need another 2 precursor relic provinces in Eordand, and I think Arakaprun has 2 at least, so they shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. These guys might not be a co-belligerent, but they do have 1 precursor relic over here, and I do want that. Might as well make the borders a little bit prettier while we're here. For my next trick, I'm going to make this country disappear and somehow connect it up to my other colony. It's not exactly exactly the cleanest looking peace steel, but it'll do the trick. We'll get 2 more relic provinces, even though I guess we only need 1 more. Still, more is better, but it is going to take a while for our subject to core all this. In the meantime, I'm going to subsidize their armies so they get some more manpower, and I'm probably going to increase their subsidies as well. You know, 11, almost 12 years later, I do wish there were a button to just change the subsidy amount instead of having to cancel and put it back. We do have a new tier 8 reform. We have some interesting ones. This one allows us to use the propagate religion trading policy. As kobolds, why not? Actually, even funnier, we have to be either kobolds or one of 4 other faiths, so it is intentional. Just feels a little bit weird. Or we could get a 2.5% production efficiency for each good you have the trade leader bonus for, capped at 15%. It also gives us minus 25% cost to centralize a state, reduced cost to promote mercantilism, 25% is nothing to scoff at. Or we have our third option here, deliberative design, where it of course enables the parliament, disables called diets, but upon successfully passing a parliament issue we gain minus 7.5% development cost for 10 years. We don't have to worry about failing to pass a parliament issue because we pretty much won't ever do that, but it does add every stated province to the parliament, which is a lot. That would be a pretty substantial bribe cycle, although maybe at this point it'll just do the mass politics one. That's actually not that much of a benefit, minus 7.5%. We can go to most of my provinces and see that that doesn't really change too much when you compare it to the cost reductions we have already. Although eventually I will probably want to swap out of this, which means that the loyalty equilibrium from deliberative design could actually be pretty helpful. I've come up with a plan. If I go with this and then use the mercantilism cost reduction to spam out a bunch of mercantilism, then that'll give me more provincial trade power I can use for the marketplace of ideas to be able to propagate religion, because that is very strong. I'm just concerned about what the propagate religion can actually affect when you're playing as Kobold Dragon Cult. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. Conveniently, we can also reduce the cost through a parliament issue. Speaking of mercantilism, if you're wondering about the economy, it's doing, you know, pretty alright. I have been doing like a lot of developing, so you can see this area is looking a lot, I guess, yellower. If it weren't for Dwarven Holds, we'd have like a better idea of what's going on here. But you can see even every single cavern is 21 dev now. While all this stuff is being cored, we can't forget about these guys down here. Looks like someone else had a similar plan, so oh, I actually don't have a CB on you. Since the Dragon Dominion isn't really doing anything and Malaknar isn't allied to anybody I really care about, we might as well finish them off. Now that I've developed those relic provinces, we finished this off. If you remember that previous event that mentioned the biomodification and the cult of Zerzamex, seems that their experiments have gone pretty insane, pretty crazy. Like growing gnomes to be the size of orcs, giving goblins scales and convincing kobolds to lose theirs. A bunch of stuff that we, as the dragon priest ascensionists, consider to be kind of insane heresy. But simple solution, since these guys rely on relics from up here to be able to do all that, we just conquer the area, take all the relics, and we become stronger while also making their experiments impossible. This increases our artifice capacity by 5. It also gives us detachable extra limbs for reduced construction costs and increased army morale recovery speed. It seems to be an invention because it does take up 10 artifice capacity, but that shouldn't be an issue. Now for this next mission, we just need to have a racial focus on Ruinborn, so we go over to this menu and find them. We actually don't have a lot of Ruinborn to begin with, but we just need to focus, it's not a big deal. Just 50 Diplo power. The mission is written as a letter to the president, from who I would assume is the person in charge of the first Pan-Aelantir Artificer Conference in Zvemel. It's pretty interesting to read on your own, but the gist is that the elves in Eordan are helping out with the Kobold Artificers, figuring out ways to mix Fey magic and Dragon Coast artificery, and the elves themselves are already submitting themselves to Varlingeld, completely on their own without being required. The main takeaway is that things are going pretty well in the world of artificery, so we can share our innovative insights with the Dragon Dominion, bringing their technological level up to our own, although I don't think they've really fallen behind at all, so that doesn't really seem to do much. In any case, we and our subjects all receive minus minus 5% technology cost for the rest of the game. One of the most important things we got out of one of those missions, though, is permanent claims on this entire area, which means we can declare war on Mestikardu as well. Starting that war now allows us to completely grab all of this stuff, which of course goes to our subject. We're gonna take this peace deal because we need the entire coastline for a mission. I did pick up the next tech, which means we get another idea group. I'm considering either offensive, diplomatic ideas, admin, or religious. Religious would mostly be for the CB, because we still have quite a ways until we get our imperialism CB. And from what I can tell, we don't really get a lot of claims in the upcoming wars, and it would also help with the aggressive expansion. So it's probably a good idea. Now I assume that I would be fighting the entire empire for this war pretty much, but it seems because of the League War going on, it won't be nearly that bad. So I built up a small army along the border. Looks like the League War is over, which gives us more things that we can occupy, including Wisdom's actual provinces. Now in this war, I am going to ask the Vanbury Guild to give up everything in Amedia and the Lai Peninsula, which is everything they have over here, plus all the stuff they have on these coasts. Plus, I'm just going to ask for a couple of provinces up here. As for Laurent and Wisdom, I will be taking Westport, a province I need for a mission, plus all this stuff up over here, also for a mission, mostly. Now, you'll notice that this is a pretty bad-looking coalition, but in reality, it isn't that big of a deal. Even if all of Canor came together, I think we'd be able to win. I forgot, but we actually do need to invade these guys too. I was supposed to do that while I was fighting that last war. It'll be a full annexation, of course. Since there's no coastline, rebel artificers will not be able to seek refuge in this region anymore. We end up capturing Zerzamex and putting him in chains, after which we reveal to Zerzamex that we will be borrowing the technology that he's been creating to help turn ourselves into dragons, rather than to do, well, whatever he was doing over here. Zerzamex doesn't seem to appreciate this very much. That's a little unfortunate since we have the technology and we don't really need him anymore. We get all of the development lost by the Artificer Malcontents events, roughly 9 development, so not really that much. And we get an event. The president makes a trip to our colony in Harath and stands before the kobolds, gnomes, and goblins, announcing that today we're not here to gloat or to demand subjugation, but instead to announce that Kobildzan was wrong. See, the problem is that the kobolds sought Ascension, but only for themselves, not for humans, gnomes, or anybody else. Frankly, didn't even think of the goblins. And so the president has come to say that Zerzamex was in fact a prophet of the dragons, and we thank him for inventing the technology necessary to turn everyone into dragons. Goblins, gnomes, and humans alike. Now that the entire region has been converted to Drosmatur, we've finally been able to finish this mission over here. The mission talks about how much wealth Varlingeld has not only been gifted by us, the kobolds, but also how much wealth he wonders the kobolds are capable of producing. Since Varlingeld, all the way over here, has never really seen an empire the way that we have produced ours, one that revolves around production and trade. He also wonders, since the kobolds are willing to give him so much for free, what else we might be willing to do for him. So we lose 6,000 crowns, we get Gospod of the Dominion level 1 until the end of the game, giving us an additional merchant, 5% global trade power, 5 land force limit, and 10 naval force limit. The Dragon Dominion also unlocks artificery and gains a colonist, 20% land fire damage, and a reduction to province war score cost, as well as a permanent claim on the entire Eden subcontinent. But what's important for us is we get another upgraded aspect, giving us 10% settler chance and minus 25% liberty desire from subjects development. The thing it doesn't do is upgrade the Grand Temple of Zvemel to level 2, which I thought it would, considering you either needed to have 6,000 ducats or you needed to have upgraded the temple itself. But it's far cheaper to upgrade the temple, which is why it's confusing. Just finished this mission off by building a couple of traps, and it seems over time that the old traps, the ones in the more secure places of the Empire, are seeing less and less defensive action, fewer battles since that first coalition, and instead have started to transition towards economic hubs, while the defensive measures end up becoming secondary to the growth of the economy. So we get a level 2 center of trade in Winterglade. Silk is now also produced in Winterglade, which is this province over here. The center of trade level in this province here is reduced by 2, and all kobold traps will be modified, giving fewer defensive bonuses and more economic bonuses. A level 1 trap now just gives us local trade power and trade value modifiers and a little bit less defensiveness. Same thing for level 2s. Seems to be pretty much the same for level 3s, and for level 4s, well, they do give us a local defender dice roll bonus, so that's not too bad. But yeah, the local defensiveness is drastically reduced. I'm pretty sure it's usually supposed to be 40% for the tier 4s, so that's a pretty big change. We've also had this mission completed for quite a while. The mission tells a story of a kobold who's trading up in the north. They mistakenly believe that the people up here are worshipping the white dragon that is said to live around here, but it turns out instead they actually really don't want the white dragon to wake up. They are terrified of it, and so the kobold trader has to eventually realize that the people up here are very anti-dragon, very different from the kobolds. We do get a permanent claim on this region over here, and a few areas change culture to Kobildzan kobold, while we also receive a new upgraded aspect, giving us max hostile attrition +2. Speaking of aspects, I had to ask for a little bit of help on figuring out what I was doing wrong with these ones. It turns out that you do need to change the primary aspect in order to learn about the secondary aspects. So it's just going to take us a little while, which isn't the big deal because we do still need to like convert a bunch of stuff anyway. And besides, we're trying to not get declared on right now, so that would be primary thing to worry about. That didn't really take too long. Pretty obvious that we were supposed to finish this mission first before finishing a technocracy for all, since the mission description is a conversation between a newly converted human and a kobold dragon priest. As the human is welcomed into the dragon cult, we can see also that the dragons believe that Castellos was in fact a dragon, which is interesting because I don't think the dragons previously cared much about Castellos. It wouldn't be crazy for them to intentionally put in a little bit of syncretism to make it easier for the humans to convert. So the human asks if they are supposed to become a kobold, to ascend the same way that the kobolds do. And at the time that you're supposed to complete this mission, it's a pretty awkward question to ask because the answer is, well, kinda not really. The kobolds are the ones that are supposed to ascend. As we've now completed this mission down here, that's not technically true. The human can also become a dragon, and in fact will likely be forced to do so. But anyway, we get 20 years of increased tolerance of heathens and reduced aggressive expansion impact, which is pretty solid. We also gain 200 religious power, which should allow us to nearly complete all these missions. We've already had this one completed for a while because we've held a lot of festivals and integrated a lot of fantasy races. The mission describes a dragon priestess giving a sermon, preaching before kobolds, humans, gnomes, and halflings about ascending into dragons. We can see how far along they've come by the fact that this dragon priestess is now 8 feet tall and has a wingspan to match. It says that some part of her flock bears the mark of the draconic, although I'm not sure if they're referring to the humans, gnomes, and halflings as well as the kobolds, because technically this was not complete yet. But the gist is that things are progressing pretty well. Everyone seems very happy with the kobolds becoming their own creators, changing their own bodies into, well, kind of dragons so far. The reward for this mission is an empowered version of the Call of the Dragon modifier. It gives us additional core creation cost reduction, religious power, and governing capacity. We also get a new upgraded aspect, or copper, giving us reduced idea cost and increased movement speed. We get 10 maximum absolutism for the rest of the game, and our artificer regiments gain Maliath's chosen disciples, which gives them plus 0.5 infantry shock for the rest of the game, although it does appear to use up some artifice capacity. For this last mission, we're just going to have to wait for, I think, like 1 or 2 provinces to finish converting. Or actually, yeah, I just remembered that these are part of trade companies and can't be converted, right? Let me do that real quick. Oh, today I learned it actually is worth putting in massive investments to the Kobold Horde because you can get guaranteed stability. What do you know? Okay, I mean, in that case, I have like so much money. Let's go with 4,000 crowns. Oh, what have you done? I love when my subjects declare a war on a colony and decide, you know, it would be really funny. What if we just drag the Overlord in? Just cause, why not? Sure. What is this even about? Why are we at war? Oh, cause my subject decided to go directly after their territory. Well, that was a bit odd. Thing is, I don't actually want to take any of this territory, at least not at the moment, because I need to have everything converted to finish that one mission, which I was about to complete before this war. So, I guess you're lucky you'll get off the hook with war reps and a bit of money, I guess. Except, of course, that these 2 provinces down here are technically not my religion, so I'm just gonna quickly throw those into a trade company apparently, which means in hindsight I didn't actually need to take those other ones out of the trade company. But anyway, at last, a celebration of Kobildzan. The message comes in the tone of a prophecy, and in order. The pilgrimage has begun. We must go to the Horde. It empties the mines and the farms and the workshop. Before long, Kobolds is nearly alone. She keeps the village together, watching after the youngest and the oldest as everyone travels to Soxen Koboldzan. When the earth shakes, the hatchlings begin to cry. Kobold ignores it because she has been told to do so. The draconic elites of Soxen Koboldzan have decreed that Maliath is waking, and who is she to know better than them? They are the ones with the claws, maws, and power of the dragons. She is merely a farmer. As the days go by, she wonders how long it will be until the other villagers return. She cannot imagine the splendor of the capital or its beauty. She regrets for a moment that she'll never be able to see it herself, but she has her own duty and she must fulfill it. It is not until the sky turns black that Kobold truly starts to worry. We get an event, the greatest horde on Halan. The first quake arrives alongside the fleets from North Aelantir. Tiny cracks in the earth herald ships on the horizon, and these ships bring the wealth of bygone eras. Few notice the cracks in the earth apart from the prophets, who interpret the tremors as their father coming to wake. The second quake comes with waves of humans, gnomes, and goblins, each passing through the gates of Revernaki and progressing towards the horde. Clan bosses mingle with scholars who sing alongside dragon priests, each sports some draconic alteration, and huddles with excited whispers as the earth grows louder. Some caverns experience collapse, and even a few Trivwalk burrows are destroyed, but a few displaced kobolds cannot temper the excitement in the air. If Maliath is to wake, the earth certainly might change alongside him. The third quake roars as the masses reach Soxen Koboldzan, with tens of thousands of people packed into tiny, cramped caverns. The passageways have never seen this level of density before. The platforms begin to collapse and the volcanic gases choke the faithful. Those who had already made it to the horde peer over the edge of its crater, which seems to bulge upwards with growing force. The fourth quake rocks Kobildzan to its foundations. Cracks open underneath the horde and geysers of magma shoot upwards. The horde itself, full of people, pilgrims, ideas, and wealth, the product of 1,000 years of kobold civilization, finds itself devastatingly close to Dragonfire. And then the world shakes again. Maliath roars, and the horde is taken by his fire. Magma erupts from beneath, its growing pressure finally strong enough to burst through fissured ground, and it pushes the entire cavern into the sky. It breaks through layers of rock, each becoming a projectile, each pushed so quickly upwards that they crumple together into superheated clumps. Even the dragon heights are not safe. The peak of the mountain above the horde pops open like a cork, then crumples into the growing mass of stone and flame. Close to the earth, large pieces of pumice and tuff collapse onto the mountainsides. These stones are pulverized into avalanches of dust and heat, mixing with broiling air and toxic fumes. The lucky settlements are those who are eradicated immediately by the falling volcanic rocks. The less lucky are those who can watch their doom coming as waves of ash and gas roll towards their homes. Morgaru, Axtagaru, and Zazivotora, everything in their path has been destroyed. Further in the air, horde gold breaks apart to form tiny flakes of ash, spread by wind and force, blocking out the sun for hundreds of miles in each direction. Western Canor is covered in darkness, and as the ash falls, it blankets entire cities. Noxious fumes and burning embers sentence many to an ashen grave. The flecks of gold provide little consolation. Between the earthen avalanche and the blanket of darkness, a cloud of smoke can be seen for miles. It reaches upwards in a narrow column, then extends and expands into a flat, wide top. Maliath's triumph is as visible as anyone could have imagined it. In endless mercy, Maliath has spared his most faithful, who live below the surface and worship his name. The heat reaches for the skies, but the lava does not smother the depth. What have we done? So, Soxen Koboldzan is consumed by the eruption, losing 27 development and gaining 100 devastation. The horde is lost in the blaze. Pyroclastic flows decimate the lowlands by the mountains, causing them to lose 9 development and gain 80 devastation. Ash blots out the sky and suffocates the land. The winds blow east, and so this smothering wave primarily damages the Alan. The worst hit regions lose 9 development and gain 80 devastation. The western edge of the Dragon Coast alongside much of the small country are partially saved by the winds. They only lose 6 development and gain 50 devastation. The affected areas protected by mountains or saved by the winds lose only 3 development and gain only 20 devastation. The caverns suffering from earthquakes but not from the eruption lose only 3 development and gain only 20 devastation. And ash blots out the sky, giving all affected non-cavernous provinces plus 4 local unrest and plus 0.35 monthly devastation. We lose 3 stability and obtain new missions. What an event. Oh boy, I am not ready to see all this disappear before my eyes. Man, this is going to be painful. That is not an insignificant amount of development. That has to be like hundreds, at minimum hundreds of development. Yeah, that's one of the, that's an event of all time right there. Yeah, the development map mode is not looking as healthy as it once was. A lot of devastation, a lot of lost development. Like, yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot of lost development right there. And so, which provinces are actually affected by this? A lot of them, I think. Well, actually, it's easier to see the devastation effect from here. That's so bad. Oh, we've destroyed everything. That's great. We do have new missions, though. Oh my god, that's so much. I really thought I'd be done here. Okay, more stuff to do still. Yeah, the economy just tanked by, what is that? Almost at 175 ducats. So we're having a pretty good time. We're gonna have to build some more forts, I think. I don't think we have full coverage over everything, and we're going to need it. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna have to swap over to upgraded blue Tayakan the Scientist. That's for a mission. We're going to need some help in getting rid of devastation. On the bright side, we're still receiving those treasure fleets from our subjects, so we can still keep ourselves afloat. So Varlengelt, realizing that the monthly ships donating to his horde have stopped as of recently, flew across the entire ocean to investigate the issue, and although he realizes that he won't be able to fix everything himself, he is going to try and help, giving us minus 10 devastation in all of our provinces. We've managed to bring the devastation down around the homeland. The mission description is a little bit grim. We have a kobold excavating a household shrine when he comes across a perfectly preserved corpse of the kobold that had been praying at the altar. The kobold believes that they had awakened the dragon that had never actually existed. I think, in fact, that what ended up happening here was nothing more than just a volcanic eruption. I don't really think there ever was a Malleus to begin with. But Varlengelt did fly across the ocean to give moral support, and the kobolds praise him for it and build new monuments in his name. But this kobold, the one excavating the household shrine, believes that maybe if somebody were actually guiding them, then this could have been avoided. So, we get an event. Tayakan decides this would be the time to reveal himself. He takes dragon form and flies to Reuniting, this province, over here. He transforms back into his kobold form, turns to the crowd, and says, I believe it's time to get back to work. Just casually, after being gone for over 100 years. We get development cost reduction for the rest of the game. We gain 3 stability. Reuniting becomes the new capital, and we will re-establish the horde in this capital. And we get another upgraded aspect, giving us minus 10% aggressive expansion impact. I've gone ahead and given myself all 3 of these aspects for the ritual, because once we do that, it permanently increases our artifice capacity by 1, as well as giving us 20 of each point and a rather large donation to the horde. These missions do have some steep requirements, including having to take all of Een for the Dragon Dominion, but they all seem pretty weak, so we might as well get started on that. We'll quickly grab what we can find here. We'll go after these guys as well. At the very least for these wars, because my subjects are so powerful, I don't really have to do anything. It's kind of nice. We'll also go ahead and declare war on Haraf, mostly for the stuff down here before we take the stuff in Een. We've now finished off our religious ideas. We do get a second free admin policy, although this one doesn't really matter that much. I'd be willing to pay the Diplo for this though. For this mission, I'm going to need a lot of army professionalism, but it is the easiest of these 3 to be able to get, at least reliably. So I'm going to swap the military doctrine over to war games to get minus 10% leader cost. While I wait for the points to be able to get the next few missions done, I might as well go ahead and start consolidating the power I have in North Island here. After all, I have been losing quite a bit of trade for quite some time. Oh, wait. Oh, you don't seem that bad, actually. Although they are a permanent great conqueror, a lich, so they are immortal. Probably not a big deal. Probably. For this peace deal, we'll give this stuff up to the Dragon Dominion, as it is part of the Een subcontinent. As for this stuff, I'll take it myself and core some of it up so that I can create a new colonial nation. Just gonna quickly clean up Bjornrik as well. We can take everything except for one province from these guys, and that's because it's all the way over here and we can't actually access it. So, have fun being exiled, I guess. These guys have a map color that's a little too similar to mine, so I'm going to have to invade them. We've just gotten professionalism to 100%, so after I finish this upcoming war, I should be able to finish off that one mission. Maybe not the upcoming war, maybe I'll just finish this one. But that also means I'm gonna go over here and change our organization back to specialized troops. Okay, the Acts of Ascension. It seems that the Ascension is rather brutal and requires a lot of operations for each kobold. During one of these very invasive procedures, Tyakan comes in to help out, even though Tyakan has apparently been living as 100 artificers for 1,000 years. He's still much more interested in being in a laboratory rather than a courtroom, and doesn't seem to mind helping out from time to time. We get the event, a surgical conversation. We have some disagreement between the doctors that are currently helping in the Ascension. One of them thinks that it would be more draconic and thus holy to have the kobolds breathe fire, just like dragons. The other thinks it would be much more practical to enable kobolds to be able to burn down and digest rocks and minerals. That way, the ash that buries the dragon coast could actually become food for the kobolds rather than, you know, everyone's death. So we get to choose between getting hyper digestion, reducing land attrition, monthly war exhaustion, and development costs in primary culture, or we could go with the dragon fire sacks, which would not only give us production efficiency, but also 10% land fire damage when we have that artificery enabled. Considering how much manpower we generate each month, I don't think the attrition is going to be particularly impactful, nor am I exactly concerned with the war exhaustion right now. The development cost would be nice, but yeah, I don't know about that one. We do already have a lot of development cost reduction. We might as well become true dragons. Why not? We get global trade. Wow, I wonder who spawned that. Yeah, we've moved just a little bit of trade into the Dragon Coast. Just a spoonful. I've also been preparing for war with Gawed, since we do want some of this northern coast here. Shouldn't be nearly as tough as the previous wars, plus I do have the Holy War CB, so it'll be less aggressive expansion. Just finished bringing us to 100 mercantilism, something I usually don't do in my campaigns. But it does give us a 200% provincial trade power modifier, so it's not too bad. Now that that is done though, I'm thinking I'm going to swap away from our current reform here, since that was one of the big things it gave us, the cost to promote mercantilism. I think I'd rather swap it to the marketplace of ideas, so I can see what I'm allowed to propagate religion in, which is seemingly quite a few provinces. The only issue is if they actually end up adopting the religion, then that gets rid of my religious CB, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But it's also funny, so I think that counts for something. This seems like a reasonable peace deal to me. Maybe not to anybody else, but that's okay. Not much they can do at this point. Perfect, looks like their war up here is done, so I can invade them finally. Unfortunately, we can't take everything that we need in this war, but we should be able to take enough that we can fully annex them in the next one. Seems pretty cheap for us to pick up this institution, so I don't mind picking it up right now. We can get the next few techs. Here we go, new age has arrived. Looking forward to that admin efficiency. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we get anything else. It's not like I really have to consolidate North and or South Aland here, but it would look nice, so I might as well keep on going. So apparently I'm going to have to take all of the Ebon Steel provinces, which includes this over here. Well, technically I only need to take 5 of them, but there are like, what, 6 maybe? So realistically I need to take like all of them. Basically I have to invade this guy. Took a lot of points to develop 30 provinces to 25 development, but after a while we managed to do it. The mission talks about specifically the eunuchs and the rest of the Ruinborn, as well as Varlingeld, coming over to the Dragon Coast and helping to rebuild the area after the volcanic eruption. In particular, it mentions that the elves have also already ascended to forms of claw and scale, so it seems the draconic ascension of everyone is going quite well. We gain a large tolerance increase of Ruinborn, bringing them from oppressed to coexistence immediately. 20 Ruinborn pops will migrate from our colonies to the Dragon Coast, bringing 3 festivals worth of gold for the Horde. The new Ashen Skies modifier will be removed from all of our provinces, and the Dragon Dominion itself gets an increase of sailors and force limit for the rest of the game, as well as a particular province in the north. I don't know why they get this one province, but whatever works. We already had plenty of horde value to get this done, but we did get a little bit more from that last event. The mission description is an excerpt from the journals of Vitir Darkwax, presumably a kobold who apparently inspired the crusade for Kugdir, which is odd because if I remember correctly, Kugdir is I think this hold over here, or it's one of the holds. Anyway, the excerpt talks about the different areas that he visited, the different things that he traded for, visiting Haraf, Aordand, the Broken Sea, and the Dragon Coast. We get another upgraded version of Call of the Dragon, giving us increased war creation cost reduction, more religious power, and more governing capacity. Oh, yeah, I guess we do get a permanent claim on Kugdir. We also get upgraded red for our religion. Yeah, so we have a claim on this guy now for Kugdir, which I think is over here, so that's kind of odd. I assume we're gonna have to use that at some point. Yep, okay. We'll just go ahead and pick this stuff up for our subjects. It looks like it's time for our next tedious war in here. Speaking of wars, we do need to invade Grumbar. It just kind of sucks that they have one province over here in the Serpent Spine, and so naturally they're being guaranteed by the dwarves in here. That's pretty cool. That makes a whole lot of sense, I think. I'm not quite sure how this whole Eosahar thing works, but the problem with this guy is that he has like, I don't know, 15 vassals, and each capital that exists increases the provincial war score cost by a certain amount, which means that because this guy has subjects, the total war score cost of taking this region has increased by like 40 to 50%. Total, not like proportionally. Like I would have to fight at least another war because of that 40%. But if I can fully annex the Overlord, well, now we're talking. I did test out this peace deal, and if you annex the Overlord, then it seems everyone is no longer an Eosahar, except for this guy for some reason got transferred as an Eosahar to our Dragon Dominion. That's a problem because it means that I cannot convert them, and the mission requires us to convert the entire area. So we're gonna see if we can annex this guy plus the Overlord to hopefully have no Eosahars, so we have separate truce timers with all of these guys, and we can annex them much faster. The tier 10 reform, I think it would actually be best for us to grab the military principle. We declare and win a lot of wars, and it would be nice to get that extra maximum absolutism. It's not the nicest looking peace deal, but it does give me the provinces that I need. So some of these are easier to do than others. Like we discovered a province in Keterata, so boom, easy. We get the upgraded bronze immediately. That's not too bad. Now we gotta ask ourselves, right, we want to send tribute to be nice to them, or do we want to conquer Akhet? I mean, we could be nice to them. It seems like, you know, they do worship the dragon, seemingly, right? So at least lore-wise, it would make sense to be friends with them. And if it doesn't work out, then, well, I don't know, we'll figure something out. We do need to continue expanding this direction, though. First stage ability, we love to pick up that admin efficiency. I feel like I should be doing so much more here. I might be waiting for a few things to happen, but I could declare another war. After all, a good part of my trade goes through the Banished Isles or up through here, and we really don't have a lot of trade power in the Banished Isles, so like 80 ducats per month are kind of being taken from us. For the second part of the ritual, we either need to ally with an Ketis Keterata or conquer them. I see. In that case, actually, shouldn't we be able to ally them? Yeah, it's super easy. Yeah, let's just do that. Okay, then we can be friends. Artillery damage from back row, that's not too bad. So we might actually be able to do this like much easier than I thought. That's good. I actually have a few ideas for our idea groups. Since we don't really need exploration or expansion, I will probably get rid of them at some point. Not yet. I would like to pick up admin, diplo, and offensive at some point. The main problem we have is province war score cost. I haven't brought over too many units, but hopefully there'll be enough. Araya is at war with Amayon, and it's kind of an interesting war they're having here. They also don't have a lot of manpower, so I think it's kind of fine. We'll see. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to get rid of my expansion ideas, and I'm going to replace those with admin ideas. Might also get rid of my exploration ideas and just go for offensive, actually. Do like a somewhat of a rework on my ideas. Probably a good idea. What's great actually about going through admin ideas right now is that whenever we contribute to the Horde, because we have +3 stability, we can actually just get a bunch of free admin. And free prestige, which is nice for suppressing my subjects. Here we go. It's been 5 years since we paraded through Akheta, so we can finally get our last upgraded aspect for the Bronze Dragon. Okay, this is pretty funny. We get the chance to play a game with Akhet. We can either give up a quarter of the Horde in tribute to gain the last aspect, or we we can gamble half of the horde for the tribute. And we do like to gamble. Half the horde isn't even that much. It's just a little bit of money. Okay, we have to play the game. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, I have to actually play? Oh no. Okay, so he plays a powerful monster. I guess we would want a strong defense against that. Probably. He's a trap card. Hurricane will remove the one trap and bread will attack. Okay, we can do that. Plays Dragon Wake. Summon every dragon card in his hand. This card can stop multiple monsters from attacking you. Seems like a good idea. And we've won. Let's go. We love gambling. Okay, so what do we get from this? We get the upgraded bronze. That's neat. And until the death of our, I assume this is our current ruler, who's 53, pretty young for a kobold, also really good. We also gain an additional 5% discipline, yearly Republican tradition, and 3 tolerance of the true faith, which is enormous. On top of that, we can also send a pilgrimage to the horde for 3 army professionalism, because I just lost a little bit in a different event. Here we go, another ability. It's probably fine to grab absolute government. Can't forget that I do need to invade these guys just so I can start converting them. Now, I could decide to wait another 2 years just to be able to get provincial war score cost reduction. Problem is, we're already getting a lot of call for peace, and it's not like I have a particular focus on Araya. For the most part, I just wanted them to cancel their guarantee over Venail. But then these guys popped up, so they don't even have the border, which means they can't guarantee them anymore. So I can probably just take this stuff and move on. Here we go, we have our new crown colony in this area. That's perfect, because I've been wanting to go to Duran and ask them, yes, please concede this colony. Perfect. That's what I was hoping for. On top of that colony, though, I could ask them for some other stuff, but then I'd have to, like, actually garrison it, and I don't know if I can be bothered. Just break your lines with Venail. We will have to come back. And then, from Venail, we're gonna ask for Norwin, Paraf, probably that stuff too. I think this would probably be fine. Maybe take, like, 1 additional province, like that one. Okay, perfect. We have a beautiful new colonial nation in this region. We'll continue to expand it to get more of this trade power. Oh, although it seems that this is actually part of the colonial isles. Okay, I will have to actually core that myself. There we go, we finished off diplomatic ideas. Look at that missionary strength and religious unity, plus the manpower. Okay, we're gonna declare war on these guys over here to try and take as much of Norwin as we can. We can start piecing out some of them, so Zanli, we can just have them concede the entire region to us, which is, I think, everything they have. Isobelian, same thing, plus, do you have an extra province? Never mind, I guess not. Funny, actually, is that for a brief moment in time, we do have the ability to, like, declare war on these guys with the Holy War CB, specifically because I technically have a border with them for the next, like, 2 days. But I will use it. With that last offensive idea, we finished reworking our groups, and we're in a much better position to start conquering a lot more. Finally, I was just waiting for barely enough absolutism to be able to take this last province here. So they will concede Norwin and these 2 provinces. Now, it's not the cleanest looking peace deal, but it does give us what we want. This province goes to our Dragon Dominion. This is one of the ones that allows you to actually cross between these 2, I think. We get the center of trade and their coastline, as well as these 2 provinces for another colonial nation. Gonna impact the Diplo a little bit, because while I did make these guys a co-belligerent, I'm not gonna annex their stuff through, like, the main menu that I'm supposed to use. That's still fine, though. And then, of course, from Thilvis, it's like everything. Of course, let's not forget what we actually came here for. Figured I'd try to get all these guys out of the way at the same time. And Haraf is, of course, no exception. Oh, right, you exist now, don't you? On the bright side, I don't actually need to invade them. At least not yet. I can just go ahead and insult them. That should finish off a mission. The mission is about the justification for our invasion up in the north here. After that disastrous volcanic eruption, the people call for war to be able to grab enough influence and wealth from these newly conquered regions to help rebuild Kobildzan. Kind of funny, because in a sense we have been doing that, just on a much larger scale than the mission itself called for. There's also the White Dragon in the north. The Skaldirics do not like the White Dragon. We do like the White Dragon, so that was another reason we had to conquer the north. We get a permaclaim on all Skaldiric faith provinces in the world, alongside the areas of Vangrim and Nirvord. Okay, we get a lot of devastation, and as Alkaisel stirs, Garudia slumbers, the Skalds prepare their forces, though it might take them a while. We unlock a new set of potential kobold trap locations in Garudia, very cool. We get upgraded white Alkaisel the Vengeful. Now, if we want to actually awaken that dragon, we're going to need to invade these guys, which shouldn't be much of an issue. Although, I will probably just invade these guys first, cut off all borders they have, just so I can invade them separately. Okay, Garudians rise up en masse, led by Scowls in the shadows. Okay, we'll deal with that in a second. Oh, you know, when they said en masse, I was kind of expecting like maybe 40,000, 50,000 at most. That's a lot. Okay, maybe I'll bring the other armies over. Yeah, that's gonna be an absolute pleasure to convert back. Lovely. Next reform, I guess just morale of armies is fine. We have more than enough manpower. Kind of funny that this rebellion is actually the toughest challenge I've faced so far. No other country I've ever fought has had 600,000 troops, so it's kind of impressive. Okay, we can take what we need from this guy, which will just be this stuff. In the end, it wasn't too bad. We will have to convert a bunch of stuff back, which kind of sucks, but it won't take too long because we have 5 missionaries and some relatively decent missionary speed. Actually, I could throw on some artificery. We have the Miracle Detector 3000 for that. There we go, that'll bump it up by another 2. I'll also swap over to you for extra speed. That should do it. While all that's being converted, we need to invade Bjarnrik as well. That'll be full annexation. We don't actually need to invade this guy, but I mean, for the crime of having bad borders, we just don't have a choice. It seems if we're going to want to take this northern area, we're going to have to first attack Korintar, take all their bordering provinces so that they can't guarantee these guys anymore, and then invade them. Took a lot of casualties and quite a bit of time, but we did manage to grab what we came here for. Just gonna take these provinces here. It'll cut them off from Vrorin March. Looks like Nurshestir actually does have a province here, so we're just going to revoke that guarantee, and we should be good to go. We'll just quickly go in here and grab a little passage through our 2 territories. Manufactories has spawned, and somehow I'm not the one to get it. Well, that's fine. It should spread very quickly for us, considering just how many manufactories we have. Plus, I did a little bit of developing. The Dragon Coast is looking better than ever before, even before the volcanic eruption. To finish off this mission, we're just going to briefly swap over to this production efficiency person. Even after the 600,000 troop rebellion, we still want the Scowls to work with us in the Ebon Steel forges. They produce a very particular kind of steel that we'd like to have. But if this conversation between a Skald working in the Ebon Steel mine and a kobold foreman is anything to go by, then the Skalds would rather die than to live under the kobolds, especially if we plan to wake Alkaisel. And we do, so that's too bad. All of our Ebon Steel provinces gain a bonus to trade goods size, trade value modifier, and artificer force limit percentage. We also gain 25 artifice capacity. I already took the time to unlock all the basic aspects of the Dragon Cult, as well as developing the Dragon Coast, as I previously mentioned. Varlengeld asks Tayakan if he was Zerzamex. If you remember, he was the rebellious artificer over here. Tayakan says that he was not Zerzamex, but did appreciate the things that he stood for. Zerzamex was more interested in using the Draconic as a way to understand things better, whereas the Kobildzani philosophy prefers to understand things better to get closer to the Draconic. There's a little bit of the reverse. Tayakan did appreciate trying to figure things out without focusing so much on how to become dragons. Varlengeld, on the other hand, prefers the divine status that he enjoys, and leans closer to the Kobildzani philosophy. We get this event. I now realize that Tayakan is definitely a dragon, not just a kobold that somehow managed to bioengineer himself into a dragon, but like an actual dragon. That should have been obvious, actually, through the fact that, in fact, it says Tayakan himself is the Great Blue Dragon. Yeah, I should have figured that out a long time ago. Essentially, Tayakan argues that the kobolds are very close to becoming dragons, or at least something so close to dragons that it's impossible to tell the difference. Varlengeld appreciates that the kobolds are extremely powerful, but that they aren't the same as dragons. Only time will tell how long that will remain true. Now, we get to choose between 2 artificeries, either biocompatibility or intercontinental ballistic kobolds. The top option gives us minus 10% advisor costs, plus 10% reform progress growth, and also all provinces in a random state will gain a large minority size of a random integrated species every 5 years, which is not such a bad idea. We do have quite a few integrated species. We have humans, halflings, humans, gnomes, and trolls. What this would essentially do is, as we can see here, we have different like majorities and minorities. So in some places we can just randomly get like large human minorities, which would give us 10% additional manpower, 20% sailors, and reduced development cost. It would also increase the state maintenance, which isn't so bad, especially once we're making this much money. And although I think the bottom one would be strictly more useful, I think the top one is more thematically appropriate, so I think I'll take it. We can also finish off this mission over here. This is actually super important. It's a conversation between the president and Tayakan. Tayakan reveals that the kobolds were his experiment, a mix between trials, research, and simply playthings for Tayakan. He controlled every variable in the caverns, introduced gods to the kobolds, told stories of the other dragons simply to see what they would do with them. And everything was going according to plan except for a mere 6-hour window, where for some reason a frenzy had afflicted Tayakan, and he broke through the cavern, flew through the sky, and only later realized that he accidentally let the kobolds out. That event itself was the Dragon Wake. The kobolds were never meant to leave the cavern. But on the bright side, it means that the kobolds haven't been completely puppeted from the shadows the whole time, so that's neat. Although it does call into question the other kobolds, because at the start of the game, there are kobolds in here as well, the dark scale kobolds, and there are also the gold scale kobolds over here. So it makes you wonder if maybe these kobolds were also a separate experiment, and maybe these ones as well, or if the dark scale ones were simply an adventurer band that left from here and went over here after the Dragon Wake. Who knows? Probably some lore somewhere. Anyway, we get another event. The event itself is, I think, worth a read. It's funny just how casual the Draconic Ascensions have become, where it's basically like going into a doctor's office. You ask for a new thing you might want, they check back in on you 3 months later to see how it's doing. The huge gap between like this groundbreaking technology and then just how benign and normal it becomes, which in a way kind of mimics like real life medical advancements. Now we get two different options. The first one is like a mana attunement gland. It'll give us 5% admin efficiency for the rest of the game. It does use up some artificery, but still very good. On the other hand, we could get 10% siege ability and 10% infantry combat ability. And honestly, I don't think we need the siege ability or infantry combat ability. We have 63% siege ability. Combat ability isn't huge or anything, but it is still pretty good. And besides, we just have sheer numbers, so it's not a huge deal. I think I'll take the admin efficiency. Ooh, is that a coalition with Laurent in it? I think I should declare war on Laurent then. I'm just gonna grab everything I can from Grombar, including this one province that's kind of been there for a while. In fact, before I court that, I might actually just convert it. Oh, wait, you were allied with Marliand? That is so funny. Right. Okay, well, I don't actually want anything from this guy. Well, maybe one thing. It wouldn't be that bad if I took, like, one province. It's just one province. It's not that much. The Magisterium would serve to be the perfect launching point for the other provinces we're going to need in Anbennar. It's a shame it causes so much aggressive expansion, but I don't care at this point. As for Laurent, I'm going to ask for the rest of their stuff in the New World. I'm also going to ask for that, I guess. And I do want some of the centers of trade in here. Yeah, people would not like that very much. Well, that's a shame. Might as well also grab that institution. We've completely removed the Scalderic faith from, well, everywhere. So we're finally ready for the Ritual of Awakening. The general in charge of these 40,000 troops that we had to put in Vangheim is a little bit concerned about what's going to happen when we actually wake the dragon up. He remembers the aftermath of the roar, although again I think that was just a volcanic eruption. But he's concerned about how bad it's going to be if he is caught in the area when the dragon wakes up. But he's kind of committed to it. There's no turning back at this point. The soldiers march into the vault of Vangheim, loudly playing instruments and attempting to wake the dragon within, only to be faced with not Alkaisel, but a different dragon. Alos, the Dragon of Copper. Okay, so we get upgraded white, Alkaisel the Slumbering, national unrest decrease, monthly war exhaustion, cool. Get another event. Now, Tayakan may not have been guiding the kobolds from behind the shadows, but that doesn't mean nobody was. When the kobolds first learned the ways of the skies and the seas, other dragons ignored them, but Alos took pity. He crafted sails and gave the kobolds the tools to do the same, then led them west to make sure that his sister, Alkaisel, stayed asleep. So the kobolds went west, found Varlengalt, and began to worship him, so Alos thought that was the end of it. But then we began our crusade against the Drosmatur religion and replaced it with the dragon cult. So Alos sponsored the cult of Zerzamex to help build the Gomo, and to collide with Tayakan's path more than a few times. Eventually, we did see what he wanted us to find out, the value of humans, gnomes, gods, goblins and halflings. But then we continued. We went north into Garudia. Not even the roar could stop us. Then we destroyed the armies of the north and ignored the skulls that he intentionally counseled to try and warn us about waking Alkaisel. So, Alos explains, the next time we meet, we need to remake the Skaldiric towers, re-empower the Skalds, and be satisfied with the knowledge that the entire time we both worshipped the same god. The Skaldirics did not hate the White Dragon because they hated dragons, they hated the White Dragon because Alos told them to hate his sister so that they wouldn't go looking to wake her up. What a series of events. Well, we unlock the Lullaby Cannon invention, and we get upgraded Copper, Alos the Skald, which gives us 10% trade efficiency. Okay, so we need to give ourselves that upgraded Copper, plus we need the Lullaby Cannon and an additional Garudian Trap Province, which we can easily do. The Kobolds, having realized the error of their ways, seek to try and reconcile with the Skalds who they treated so poorly for seemingly hating dragons. The Skalds aren't taking it though. Even if the Kobolds are eager to work with the Skalds as friends now, it doesn't exactly make up for the several 100,000 dead. Not to mention, the idea of Ascension is not very appealing to the Skalds. Nonetheless, we do get Skaldic Unity, plus 3 max promoted cultures. We instantly get West Dalar, East Dalar, and Olavish as accepted cultures. We also get upgraded Copper, Alos the Unifier, giving us plus 4 tolerance of heathens, and all owned Ebonsteel provinces gain additional bonuses, as well as a Mage Tower. Ooh, that's a big question. Now we're getting to the point where all of the elites, the technocrats, are able to ascend, but not every kobold or not everyone is able to be a dragon. They say that it would be a waste of state resources to ascend everybody, but we get to choose whether or not we're going to do it anyway. If we allow everyone to become dragons, we do get morale of armies, a reduction in years of separatism, but also minus 30 maximum absolutism, and plus 10% merchant guild's loyalty equilibrium. On the other hand, if we have draconic elites, then we gain 30 maximum absolutism, 10% nobility loyalty equilibrium, and minus 5% autonomy change cooldown. That's not very much. Maybe that was supposed to be minus 50%, because that's not a very big modifier. The one you get from the age is like a minus 50% already, so. Anyway, we're gonna go with the top option, because that is 30 absolutism difference, which is a lot. While we wait for a few things to happen, we do need to go and invade Mix, in particular because they hold a little bit too much power in the Ruined Sea. Same with Venail, frankly, we will have to go to war with them again. This should be most of the provinces we need. May or may not mention each time I decide to clean up a little bit in the New World. I don't know, we'll see. For the second last reform, let's go with minimum autonomy in territories is actually really good. Like, picture in your head right now we have 90% autonomy in territories. If you make that 80%, we would be getting double what we get out of territories, or the same governing cost. It's been tedious, but I've spent a good amount of time moving 200,000 troops over to the east, because we're going to have to invade Buvari. We have technically already done enough to complete this mission here, but if we go after some of the other aspects, I think we'll be able to gain all of these. Well, maybe not, but we'll see. And slight spoiler, but we're going to have to do this eventually anyway. Conveniently, we did get free claims. That'll be it for Arakellan. I will take these islands. They'll help me stage an invasion of the command, which we will have to do at some point. Oh boy, right. See, I really felt like this shouldn't be my problem. Not sure if that's a big deal. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see that. I'm gonna grab this stuff from Buvari. It's a good number of the trade centers, not all of them, but most of the somewhat contiguous ones. Plus, this up here should give me a border with the command that we can use to start pushing in. Before I take that peace deal though, I will probably just quickly grab my minus 10% aggressive expansion. There we go, just one quick conquest later. I will have to swap this out for, I think it's the Brass Dragon. Anyway, we can core all this up. Well, not all of it, but most of it. Let's not forget to make a few trade companies so I can get a merchant and start converting the area through my trade policy. Okay, we've conquered Stromaya and technically more slave-producing provinces in Hellas, so we can upgrade this aspect. In our quest to find Ginthus, the Brass Dragon, we are attempting to emancipate as many slaves as we can in Hellas. One of the Raheni suggests that if we really want Ginthus to show herself, then we're probably going to need to do a little bit more than simply getting rid of slavery in one location. So we have two choices. We can either destroy the command, we get a CB called Restore the Old Order, lasts 200 years. Or we can try to eradicate slavery from the Gulf of Rahed. Now, I kind of want to go for Restore the Old Order. I don't know what it does, but if it shatters the command, it would be very funny. Therefore, it's worth pursuing. Got an event to purchase some admin, didn't realize I was kind of close to the cap, so I'm just going to take the next tech, because the next idea group is going to be another admin one. Probably go with infrastructure, because states governing cost minus 10% stacks really well with what we're about to get. For example, we get minus 60% already. In fact, I can upgrade courthouses to make that minus 85%, and then with that extra minus 10%, it brings it down to minus 95%. So I think it's a pretty good idea. Finally, the coalition is starting to collapse. That took a while. If I swap our main aspect to Varlengalt, then we should be able to finish this off. A little TLDR with this mission, Varlengalt is very pleased with having conquered the entirety of the Yin, although he does feel a little bit guilty because he didn't really have to do anything. Most of the work was done by Kobildzan and also the Ruinborn around him, so while he's happy that he was able to help so many people during the Roar, at the same time he feels like he doesn't exactly deserve all the stuff that he's been given. And as he makes his speeches, he wonders how much of this could have been accomplished without him ever lifting a wing. Putting that Varlin guilt aside, we do get a few bonuses. An upgraded version of the Gospod of the Dominion, giving us an additional merchant and a few other things. All of our subject countries unlock all of the current inventions that we have. A few bad province modifiers are removed for the Dragon Dominion, and we get another upgraded green aspect. Before we finish this off, I do kind of want to grab the purple dragon invention, the elemental gunpowder. The other two don't really matter as much, so I went ahead and slotted in the correct thing. We just need to go ahead and ally ourselves with a country with a capital in either Middle Dwarovar or Far Bulwar. Far Bulwar is this region over here. We can see that somebody has a capital in here, and Sariand is a little bit afraid of me, which is fair. So they are more than willing to ally us, and we can expand our understanding of the purple dragon. It also gives us artillery levels available versus fort, which is neat, I guess, although I didn't bring that much artillery with me. So once we have 40,000 crowns, we'll go ahead and press this button. Okay, let's upgrade the Diplo and military tech. We'll swap out for some new artillery. Ooh, is this like actual unique artillery? In Anbennar? No way. Also, I've somewhat changed my mind. I'm actually going to take out a couple of loans. Then we're gonna go over here, finish this off. Kind of weird that it even takes, what is that, 40,000 crowns? You would really think at this point that it would just upgrade the dams. I don't think it does, but I don't actually care whether it does or doesn't. The main point is that Jinthas's agents will sabotage the command's supply of Korashi. I don't know what Korashi actually is, but that sounds good to me. As for the lore, it's a conversation between Tayakan and Varlengalt, where Varlengalt doesn't see any issue with his subjects becoming more and more dragon-like. Tayakan finds that they're becoming more powerful by the day. Varlengalt assumes that he'll just be able to improve his abilities the same way that the kobolds have been able to, noting that if the Dominion evolves, then so will Varlengalt. Tayakan, on the other hand, is afraid that the kobolds will surpass Varlengalt, and that perhaps they already have. I will also swap out an aspect for more discipline, and finally, I will proclaim a hegemony. Previously, I wasn't doing that because I only had access to the economic one, and while it's nice, I think in the end we would prefer to have military hegemony. Plus, I had to get rid of that previous coalition, and taking any hegemony makes everyone hate you a little bit more, or a lot more. Now, as you can see, I have moved over a couple of troops into Rahen to fight the command. They have around 322,000 troops and 0 manpower. Meanwhile, I've brought somewhere in the ballpark of, I don't know, roughly 500,000 troops. We also have really good quality, and a lot of these are artificers, so I don't think we're going to have any issues. Now, let's shatter the command. Easy in and out, it'll take like 20 minutes. We just had a, not crushing battle, but boy, it was not that great. See, the command, I guess they just kind of spawn manpower out of nowhere, I don't know. Or maybe they just hired a bunch of mercenaries, that's possible. Oh, yeah, that's 200,000 mercenaries. Still, I'm not very concerned because the command gets 2,500 manpower per month, and I get almost 16,000, so it's not a big deal. We also have like almost 4 times the economy. Isn't that interesting? So we siege Sir. The command loses 20 Korashi reserves, although I guess they also lose war exhaustion, or did we lose war exhaustion? I don't know. Oh, it just says lose 2 war exhaustion. Well, in any case, we didn't have any because we are the hegemon. Well, there goes the capital. Only took 67 days to siege that down. Burning of the RPU headquarters. What does that do? Lose 30 Karashi reserves. That's crazy. Lose 5 war exhaustion. I get Fury of the Shamans, 25% siege ability. Damn. Time to go siege some stuff, I guess. We have 100% siege ability right now. I really wish at this point I could just go up to the command and say, yeah, we've sieged your capital and you're outnumbered in ways that the hobgoblin mind cannot comprehend. We may have lost 250,000 soldiers, but the manpower pool has only increased. The command has been nearly completely routed. Don't worry, I decided to spare you the roughly 2 hours this has taken. Really just a lot of micromanaging. We've done it. We've managed to finally get the 100 war score we need for this. Before I go ahead and just collapse the command, I'm quickly going to spend a little bit of that prestige. And what do you know? It really did only take like 2 years. By the standards of this campaign, that is not a long time. So let's see what this does. We get an event, the restoration of the old order. The command has fallen at our claw. Now the ruined kingdoms will be reborn in the Shamakad Valley. So we release Sir Gatasak and Kadrisapur as an independent country. All hobgoblin subjects become independent, and that does not seem to be a lot. On the bright side, it does release Balrejin. They lose almost 2,000 development. In fact, they lose so much development that they drop down to the 8th great power spot, and they'll lose great power status completely soon. Alright, by Jinta's will, we have destroyed the command. We get the last upgrade for them. If you remember the previous event, turns out that the guardswoman that was speaking with one of our commanders, generals, I don't know, was Jintas the whole time. She was the one that gave us the suggestion to dismantle the command, and then we went ahead and did it, not knowing that this was actually a quest that she was giving to us, and now that it's done, she reveals herself. We are very lucky that we managed to ally up with Verkal Kozanad, and also, they just went ahead and conquered the exact province we needed. I think that should be the Purple Dragon. They built up 40,000 units, moved them in there, and since it is owned by an ally, it all works out. If I remember correctly from the second half of the dwarf video I did, which you should go ahead and watch, by the way, this was the hold that kind of went insane, I think. Oh yeah, that makes it pretty obvious, actually. As she broke through the foundations of the ancient hold, she spewed an endless fog of purple miasma. It acted quickly, rendering everything mad. Yeah. Crazy how that lore connects between different mission trees. We get the last upgraded purple aspect. We lose 10 units in that place. Not a big deal, because I was actually just going to get rid of them anyway. We've managed to be friendly enough with Balrejin to get an alliance with them. Although I haven't actually checked if I'm supposed to get an alliance or if I'm just supposed to invade them. Well, hopefully an alliance works. I wanted to make my life a little bit easier, so I waited to break the alliance between these two before I invade them. Ooh, turns out I need to like actually burn Balrejin into a subject. That's a little bit awkward. I wouldn't suppose you'd like to become a subject, would you? Nope, you would not. Unfortunately, Siren Var did decide to intervene a little bit when I kind of didn't want them to. So we can't take everything, but we can take most stuff. And don't worry about the coalition, it's not really a coalition. We finished this mission off though. We've taken over Kugdir, and a little bit more than that. So we immediately reignite the forges and start bringing in gold to fill the coffers. Then we go find those dark-scale kobolds, which may or may not still exist somewhere a little bit, or maybe they were killed, it happens. Anyway, the ones that still remain, we bring them back to Kugdir, and we're going to give them control over the stuff we own in the Serpent Spine. With this done, once we grab Balrejin, we will have reunited all of the kobolds in the world. Well, all of the ones that exist in the current patch, because there is Insia, and there are kobolds in Insia. Okay, we've released our subject, another twin empire. Gonna go ahead and just give it a bunch of stuff. Although, I might not actually be able to core everything. That could be a problem. I thought it would hand over all of this stuff in the Serpent Spine. That would make my life a lot easier. Anyway, we finished another mission. An ancient blue dragon, alongside his counterpart in copper, arrive at the great governing palace of Revanarchy. Across from them is a child, the green dragon of Aelantir, who greets them with practiced geniality. Filling the seats of power and surrounding the trio on all sides are dragons so young to be seen as only hatchlings. Ascended kobolds and others have assembled from across the intercontinental empire and are all here to take part in governance. All are here to witness this moment. For the first first time since long before the Dragon Wake, there are dragons who live in the open among each other. For the first time in history, those who were once known as kobolds now join their ranks. The final evolution is at hand and a new age of the Draconic begins. We get the event, a family reunion. An uncomfortable trinity of dragons looms over the crowd, each far less confident in each other than they are of the kobolds. When the noise of the crowds allows them to speak in peace, Alos nods to the other two. "It is good to meet you, Varlengalt," he says. "And to see you again, Tyakan," he lies. Tyakan replies without lifting his eyes from the kobolds, snarling in meaning rather than posture. "Do not take that tone with me. We both found that it was time to reveal ourselves. I simply realized it faster than you, just like always." "You could have stopped them," Alos says, "from waking Alkaisel. I was not necessary. I thought she could be reasoned with," says Varlengalt. In return, Tyakan chuckles and Alos cackles. "You both have no faith in kin. Besides, if she was so harmful, she could always be destroyed." "No, no," Alos responds. "She can never be reasoned with, and never killed. I knew her too well to see it happen." "So, you let them kill half of your people trying to wake her up?" asks Tyakan. "As if you cannot say the same, patron of Zurzamexia," comes a copper retort. "Or you, vassal of Kobildzan. I would not have believed a so-called liberation would see cooperation as weakness," Varlengalt replies. "You have chosen a risky place to side against Kobildzan." In the stands, almost ignoring the bickering trio, are creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some are scaled, some are fleshy, some stand taller than Tyakan, while others sit in masses of eyes and limbs. Though claws, horns, and wings can be seen among most of them, just as common are incredible new appendages. Gills, internal furnaces, opaque flesh, and customized bodies fill the stage with wondrous sights. Each calls themselves a dragon, even if their form is different than any dragon known before. To be a dragon is to be able to change, and none have changed more than the people of Kobildzan. "We can change anything. We gain the protean form until the end of the game. It does use up artifice capacity, but we get minus 10 years of separatism, minus 25% culture conversion cost, and minus 50% culture conversion time. And the reason we get this is because of our previous choices. We have more inventions embodying change than power. And honestly, I don't know if this is like the best outcome. The years of separatism are cool, I guess. And if you wanted to do a one culture, then this would be great, since there aren't that many culture conversion time modifiers. Since we're not doing that, it's just kind of alright. Now, for this final mission, we're going to need a horde value of 512,000 ducats. We currently have 184,000, so we are almost halfway there. It's just gonna take a whole lot of stockpiling and a whole lot of festivals. Speaking of festivals, we still need to develop a theology of the Silver Dragon among the Canorian holy sites, and we need to climb the peaks of the Jade Mountains to wake the Gold Dragon. The rest of these, you know, I've been doing in the background. At this point, I might as well just take the techs. At the very least, with Tech 23, we do get Imperialism, so we can use that to march closer to Balregine. I'm not gonna ask for much because I don't want a very big coalition. Or it's more like I just don't want to freak out the other kobolds. The last reform doesn't really matter since I already have over 100 absolutism, so I'll just take this. Seems like it's going to take a little while before we actually can vassalize Balregine, because we will need to take some provinces from the command to get a little bit closer, and we still have a truce with those guys for the next 6 years. So in the meantime, we're gonna start going for these holy sites. Puts us at war with a couple countries, but nothing too bad. Yeah, that totally wasn't tedious at all. Okay, Istralor, you're gonna hand over your colonies and then break your alliances, thank you. I'm just going to annul as many treaties as possible, try to get rid of as many potential alliances as I can, because I'm just gonna go in, grab as many monuments, whatever, little temples I need. Now, to finish these wars off, I'm just going to want these little temples over here. That's it, no more, no less. I want to be a little bit conservative on that aggressive expansion. In fact, I'm just gonna grab this real quick. Well, that's 2 temples down, technically 3 temples actually, although we are going to need 10 of them. Event TLDR, we're gonna try to convince people that Castellos was also a dragon, pretty much. Or at least to start with, that like he might not actually be dead or something. Turns out I actually am allowed to declare war on people while they're in the Empire, and I have a truce with the Emperor. So that's neat. I did a little investigating. We only need 10 of these holy sites, and there are actually 13 of them. So I can choose to ignore 3 of them, and I think I will. In particular, I'm going to ignore this one, and that one. Because apparently apparently there's one up here that's really easy to grab. This one, it's not as easy technically because I will have to go to war with Korintar. And Stalbor is, I believe, the protector of the Koronite faith, so, yeah. Still, it does shift a little bit of the AE to the east. And there's also one in Laurent, that's not too bad. This one should be easy to grab as well. All the coastal ones are pretty easy to grab. Like, there's one over here too, for some reason. My next plan is to put Pearl's Edge in so much debt that they will hopefully not join any more wars. That would be pretty cool. Then I can just grab this holy site and a bit of money. Nothing personnel, Laurent, just need that one province. Funny enough, Eberthael only has 2 provinces. Just a little island off the coast here, which I would like to have, and also this one in the New World I'll just hand over to my subject. As for Laurent, I would like to connect up my territories in the south, although I guess I don't need that. And then of course we do need this one temple. I'm trying to connect it all up so I don't have to like use boats to move people around. I already have enough of that. Here we go, we have 5 of the holy sites now, so we can upgrade it once more. Alright, how many troops is this? Like 450,000? That's not a lot. Pretty light war. You can ask Stalbor for a bunch of money, break a whole bunch of treaties. Even if they don't necessarily have alliances with some countries, I just don't want them to form those alliances, like with Corvuria. Also, they are defender of the Koronite faith, and hopefully this means they will not be defender of the Koronite faith after this. I only need to ask for these 2 provinces. Okay, Neurcester. I just need 1 province from them. That was quick. Next up would be Laurent. Full occupation within a matter of months. We really just need the 1 province, but I wouldn't mind grabbing maybe 2 more. It's not very much aggressive expansion, so maybe another one. And maybe like a few more. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I'll give us a second to cool down the aggressive expansion over here. Besides, I do have to fight the command again. Okay, step 1 of the tedium is done. I need to take all of this stuff from the command. It kind of sucks that I did everything I think I can possibly do for Bal Regine and I still cannot diplomatically vassalize them. That's pretty neat. Yeah, we reached a cap of 175. They would be more than willing, it's just game rules. Like, I would say yes, Bal Regine would say yes, but isn't there someone you forgot to ask? The video game? Yeah, so we're gonna go to war and we're gonna bring these guys in. I kind of want them to be occupied so then I can unoccupy them and hopefully gain a little bit of opinion through that. We'll see. In any case, I will need to invade Azjakuma because I need to grab this hold up here for some reason. So basically I need to fight on the provinces owned by Bal Regine. That should give us a little bonus for defending their provinces. Or if they get sieged, then we can unsiege them. I just need to make sure that Bal Regine themselves don't get sack wiped, because if they don't have a military, then they will probably leave if they step on the capital. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grab all this stuff from Azjakuma. I don't think it'll be that much aggressive expansion, since they are a religion that almost nobody else follows. And Bal Regine is at 190 opinion of us, because yes, they did feel a little bit upset about the stuff I took, but I can vassalize them, which means that we can at least finish the first objective. Okay, so Bal Regine gains a core on Valriza, what they already have. We make them a twin empire as well. We gain historical friend and permaclaims. Cool. I think I mentioned Bal Regine are the gold scale kobolds. Hopefully I did, maybe I didn't. They have a whole mission tree that also involves dragons. Can you figure out which one that is? We aren't done yet though, because of course not. That would be too simple. We have to declare war on Jade March, who has 300,000 troops. Yippee. I didn't even bring 300,000 troops, so this should be interesting. It wasn't a super easy battle, but at the very least, our artificery is absolutely clearing them. Plus, they brought in a little too much artillery. Absolutely no contest. And we might even get to stack wipe, but maybe not. I'm gonna guess probably not. Nah, it's unfortunate. Well, GG, there's the capital. Now, what do I actually need for this again? Our Karl Dromag is owned by us, an ally or a subject. We need to have 40,000 troops there, and fully upgrade the brass and green aspects. I think I've done both of those, actually. I'm gonna take a little bit more just because I can. That should be it for Bal Regine. We have to actually go find Balrus. Yeah, I guess we would have to go through the entire event chain. Minus 10% governing capacity for that year is just kind of weird. While that's ongoing, we do need to turn our attention back to Canor. There's no way you're a defender of the Koronite faith again. I thought you would be barred from taking that for a few years. I guess we might as well make this war an easy one. Imperialist war against Willair? Wait, what? What are you doing? Why are you like this? Sorry, I need to be able to declare war on the Empire, so no. Speaking of declaring wars, alright, Stalbor, just like leave or something. I don't really care, man. I just need this one holy site. Almost done, just 2 more holy sites left. So the way this is going to work is we're going to declare war on Themaren. they have one of the holy sites we need, except that's being sieged right now. Oh, but it's being sieged by rebels. Never mind, we're good. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and just spend like, what is that, 55,000 crowns on looking for Balrus? Sure, why not? Well, isn't that convenient? Still, I will have to take out a couple of loans. If you're wondering, by the way, yes, I checked multiple times throughout this and there was never a chance to dismantle the Empire. Especially after I became a hegemon, it just was not happening. Okay, I just need the holy site over here and I'll take one additional province for my subject. It's just like the one that Moonhaven has. But first, of course, I need to go to Pearl's Edge and just break all of their alliances. Or not, because that Emperor modifier for staying in the war is hefty. We cannot ask for much at all. In that case, never mind. Just gonna take what I need. I think there's only one holy site we have left to take, and it would be this one. Not gonna be a fun war, but at least they have 2 provinces, which means that I don't need to fully annex or piece out everybody in this war. That's good. Wow, they do not make it easy to find Balrus, I guess. Like, I don't know why I need a minus 30% global admin efficiency penalty, or minus 30% governing capacity. I don't know why I need all that, but okay. Oh yay, minus 40%, that's pretty cool. At the very least, I think the flavor text is different for finding Balrus than it is when you're playing the gold scale kobolds. I mean, for example, we can see Jinthas and Varlingeld. That's probably why you need to upgrade the other 2 dragons, actually. It makes a lot of sense. Basically, it's getting tough, climbing up a big mountain and all that. I guess at this point, Balrus was kind of either locked away or just sleeping on the mountain for a really long time, hiding until the moment where he can come back. So once both Jinthas and Varlingeld stand before him, he starts to weep, realizing that the dragons have once again made a comeback. From this event, we get somewhat of an answer for the gold scale kobolds. It seems Balrus has some kind of connection to them, calling them his own kin. Presumably in the same way that Tyakan created the Kobildzan kobolds, Balrus assumes that all of the ascended in the room are actually just dragons that were hiding away for a while, and the president explains that we have made civilizations of dragons. So for the rest of the game, we get plus 5% morale of armies, we lose that massive penalty we got for a few months, we gain 50 prestige, 800 splendor, and we get the final upgraded aspect. All of this for a single province. Well, a single province and some colonies. Maybe that too. Okay, now we can take that. That should just about do it. We can expand our understanding of the dragons one last time. At the Temple of Ara, dragon priests insist that Ara is actually a dragon. At the Temple of the Dame, dragon priests have decided that the Dame was actually a dragon. At the Temple of Bega, dragon priests pray to Bega, the dragon. In the Temple of Castellos, in Castanath, dragon priests proclaim that Castellos headed a pantheon of dragons. The Canorians have been brought into the Draconic, and their gods have been too. To Castellos, head of the Draconic pantheon. That is the last dragon upgrade. Now we just need to wait to get enough money. With one last ritual, we can leverage the cults to add a little bit extra money. These are the final upgrades for the Kobold Horde. It is at max level Draconic 525-ish thousand ducats, and we are probably hopefully done. If there are more missions after this, it's too bad. I'm not doing those. In the shadow of the volcano which so recently rent Canor asunder, the power to extinguish life once again settles into Revenarchy. A rainbow of banners coat Revenarchy, each flown high and bearing a representative of their hue. For blue, Tyakan. For green, Varlingeld. For red, in ascended darkscale. Jinthas, Aket, and Alos embody brass, bronze, and copper, while gold is found in the presence of Balrus. White is championed by an Alkaisel cultist, and black by a Charkuchin from Insia. The Charkuchin also arrives with the representatives of brown, a T-wave transceiver, sending messages to and fro with a dragon turtle from Canolowele. Finally, a Canorian priest who had been brought into the Draconic clergy manages the silver, and purple alone fails to arrive. Each is huddled into the halls of Kobildzan, and are received gracefully by the people of the nation. Now, once and forever, the dragons are united. Now, for the final event, a Kobildzani, gold scale, Charkuchin, and Darkscale Kobold walk into a bar, and each walks out as a dragon. Aket duels cards with Varlingeld. One plays the Conqueror, the other the Defender, each strengthening their image in the minds of their masses. Alos and Jinthas swap stories of failed attempts at liberation, and even greater failures which came when they did not intervene. Balrus and Tyakan spend weeks talking to Grandfather Moss, the Dragon Turtle, through a transceiver wielded by a Charkuchin. They speak of those who died during their thousands of years of life. They discuss all they have learned in their millennia of isolation. There is so much to know and so much to rebuild. With so many dragons assembled and with the horde so full of wealth beyond measure, it is impossible for the nation to not have evolved alongside its people. The dragons are here now and forever. Their progeny is secured, founded by the kobolds. In radiant rainbows of every hue, the age of dragons is restored. We are kobolds. We are dragons. If we decided to continue playing from here, we would get quite a few nice bonuses, like an upgraded version of the Call of Dragons, giving us further religious power, decreased core creation cost, and more governing capacity. Until the end of the game, we would also get 25% additional religious power, and we would get another artificery invention, the Holiest Flesh, giving us plus 20% land fire damage and minus 20% fire damage received. This would basically make the artificers hit like trains. 70% land fire damage, minus 30% fire and shock damage received. Plus they get that little bonus for being artificer regiments. Well, that was definitely the longest video I have ever recorded for the channel. Well, so far. I think I'm at like 35 hours of footage, and that doesn't even include the additional stuff that I didn't record because I was just doing regular developing maintenance. So for example, we have 11,426 development, but some of that is just from our subjects. So in total, we have 6,706 development. All of that fits within our governing capacity. Only 2,900 is being used, but keep in mind, this is what the expanded infrastructure map mode looks like, and this is the dev map mode. I tried to bring as many provinces as I could to about 21 development. Remember, this stuff up here was like 3-4 development. The caves were like 3 or 4, but even in here the caverns are like 30. The capital, surprisingly, is only 41. Not much else to show off. I mean, this is what it all looks like. It's a very disgusting snake we created in Hellas, but you do what you have to. North Island here looks kind of alright though. We did take pretty much everything, just ignore that. And there's no way I'm gonna fight Siren Var over this. In the end, we make 3,000 ducats a month. We also gain just under 19,000 manpower per month. Every time we go to war, we can bring in just about like 3 million troops, another 5 million in reserve. In fact, alright, it doesn't even show you that. It looks like I have 631,000 manpower. It's actually 1.6 million, plus a million troops. I think that's pretty much everything. I'll probably put this save in my Discord if you're interested in looking at it. It is by far the most effort I have put into a video on the channel, including that Mehmet's ambition achievement. But I also need to make a Castanor video, so look forward to that, I guess. Anyway, thank you very much for watching what I can only assume is probably the longest video on the channel at this point. If you've made it to the end of this entire thing and you're still not convinced to subscribe, I don't even know what to tell you at this point. And also, if you haven't already, I would be really cool if you want to leave a like on the video. But for now, this is Corbett signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day. I'd like to give a special thank you to the patrons for this month, especially those in the Admiral tier: Erica, Baby Cal, Born to Dunk, Lickerbecker, Nick Steffel, and Cubrute. Those in the General tier: AG Forero, Ben Mottram, Quiet Guy, Rosset, and Torvald. Those in the Prince tier: Ambient Cyan, James Levy, and Luke78776, and in the Emperor tier: Robert. Not only do these people help keep the channel going, but they also receive early access to videos for as low as $1 per month. The Patreon link is in the description.